going on? This is Jason with JWClassicVW, and welcome back to the garage, welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to the rebuild of the 2287 Turbo, and eventually the 40 horsepower build as well. Let me turn you around real quick and show you kind of what's going on in the garage today, this weekend. So first off, I got a bunch of my parts in. If you guys have been following social media, you've already seen some of the stuff. We're going to go over what I got in from CB Performance to help out with the rebuild. The alternator is back from being rebuilt, so that's super cool. You can kind of see that we've got some new shiny parts on the inside here. They had to replace the regulator because it wasn't working anymore. So maybe we'll get the alternator back together for the Bernie Bergman fan shroud. And what else might we work on today? The fuel regulator. My aeromotive fuel regulator. We've got a few different things I'm going to be doing when it comes to relocating the sensor, the fuel pressure sensor. Right now it's over on this side, and I'm not too keen on the location of that. I can't tell if anything is going wrong with it, or if I had to replace it, it'd be a real pain in the butt. So I'm gonna try to relocate it over to this side and kind of move it out of the way with an adapter that I picked up to move it to like a 45 up in the corner over here somewhere. But we're gonna take a look at that, and and not a whole lot more than that. You did see in the intro that I had some head work that I was cleaning up because I've sent the heads off with the pistons to get ceramic coated, and that helps out with heat, distributing heat. Oh yeah, and did you notice I got a new to me toolbox? Picked this up Facebook, social media, doing some work on that. Let me show you. Yeah, so I picked up some of this foam. I'm ripping this. There was some carpet in there, just kind of like, you know, used for the tools to help pad everything inside of there, and I'm not too much liking that, so I went ahead and I picked up just some padding for the inside to help things from sliding around. And you know, carpet holds moisture, and this thing has got a little bit of rust problem already. Took some OSPO to it already, and it's helping convert all that rust into not rust anymore. Yeah, so you can see, got this in here. These are all my specialty tools for all kinds of stuff, not just Volkswagen specialty tools, but you know, some cool things inside of here. So let's get into stuff, guys. Let's take a look at some of these parts, and then maybe we'll get the alternator back together. Yeah, right, 1 second. Guys, we're gonna go ahead and move over to the bench now and take a look at some of these cool new parts I got from CB Performance. But before we do that, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this content if you're enjoying it, which I know you guys are. I know you're super excited to get this turbo build back on the road so we can get it over and dyno it, because yeah, I want to see what kind of horsepower we're working with. But let's take a look at some of these CB Performance parts. Over to the bench, guys. Yeah, I really just have two go-to locations for when it comes to where I buy my VW parts from, and one of them is CB Performance, and the other one is CIP1. CIP1, guys. Why? Because they're good prices, and the shipping is usually free when you get enough, enough stuff. So this right here, actually, I picked up off of Amazon. It's for the fans on the back of my intercooler. I'm gonna try to relocate those a little bit closer to the back, kind of close the gap up there, because I need a little bit more room on that back side. This is the aeromotive, the new aeromotive fuel pressure gauge that I picked up, and I got another one of these. Not because I think I jacked up my other one, but there's a little pressure relief deal on there. It's this on the top of there. And I don't know when I removed that thing, but I can't find it. So I think my fuel pressure gauge may be jacked up. You're supposed to pull this thing out once you have it in position to relieve the pressure inside. See how it just pulled up just a little bit there? Okay, I'll zoom you in. Right on the top, the fuel pressure gauge. This little pin, it relieves the pressure inside of there. It helps keep the fuel pressure where it should be. Or, so it's accurate. And then you gotta push it back down inside. Well, I'm missing mine. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know what I did to it. It got misplaced. So I picked up another fuel pressure gauge. Yeah, got that. I also picked up a fancy Wiseco ring compressor for when I go ahead and redo the rings on my new pistons, my new JE pistons, because I didn't want to jack them up. And this makes things quite a bit easier from what I've seen other people using them. And let's see what else we got here. These are some new race push rods. I got some regular push rods too. Let me show you those. Show you kind of a difference between these if you guys are kind of curious. What's a race push rod and what's a regular push rod? Well, these aren't exactly regular. These are windage push rods, which means they're a little bit wider on the inside, and they have this extra bit of material right here versus like a stock push rod. I don't think I have any stock push rods just lying around here. These race ones have this really cool kind of like different end of the neck that goes into the block that helps keep things in position. Plus they are a bit thicker as well. Wider on the inside. And where this wider on the inside comes into play is when you have like these high ratio rockers that kind of move the push rod off center. This kind of helps keep it from rubbing the side. Actually, it does keep it from rubbing the side. I don't know if there's a big difference. So I think the Windows ones and these ones are pretty close. Let me pull that out of there. So yeah. The race one might be a little bit wider. I could probably measure those and check that later. But yeah, the race ones have a different, see the ends, they're different. But these push rods, just like any push rods you receive, you have to open up this area here so they can be collapsed. Because the guys that make these push rod tubes have no idea what combination you're going with. So you might have like a more clearance required or less clearance required when it comes to your heads to the actual cylinder heads, actually to the block or the case, your engine case. So I got lots of push rod tubes, extras. You can never have enough push rod tubes. You never know what you're gonna be building, all right, guys? We got some sensors. I got these sensors do like fuel, they do oil, they do coolant if you have coolant in your system, or fuel, oil, or coolant. Yeah, that's what they do. I got these ones off of Amazon. I'll put these down in the description, guys, if you want to take a look at them. But they're like most standard sensors, like 0 to 4.9 voltage, which is like, for this one, these go up to 100, I think this is 100 PSI. Let's see if I can see this. Yeah, 100 PSI. That's really hard to read. 0 to 100 PSI. 0 says 0.5 to 4.5 volts. So like 0 PSI is 0, and 100 PSI would be like 4.5 volts. Most sensors are like this, or have that range. I'm gonna check them out and see how good they are. I don't like the idea of having to spend well over $100 for sensors if I ever have to replace them, and these ones were about 50 bucks on Amazon. So check out the description below if you're curious to checking them out as well. But I'm gonna put them through the gambit on both oil and fuel and see how they do. See how they work. I got two of them. All right. This stuff right here, this Loctite 518, is used for sealing metal to metal. So like if you're using a gasket, this is pretty much the same thing as using a gasket. Like it's not RTV silicone or anything like that. It's just a different type of sealant for close tolerance metals. And what I'm gonna use this for is, hold on, let me show you. So if you've been watching the channel for any kind of duration of time, you know that this is the top hat to my EFI turbo system. Turbo pressure comes down through here, or this is the intake side for the manifold. We have our injectors right here, and this is the fuel rail, integrated fuel rail. Well, what I'm gonna use this for is I don't use a gasket on the bottom of my manifolds to the head. And that's just to help out with keeping boost where boost is supposed to be. And I don't want to blow out a gasket, so we don't want to have that kind of problem. I'm not sure if that would be an issue, but I'm trying to make sure it's not. So I use some gasket sealant here, which is more like a silicone RTV type sealant, but I've heard that this is supposed to be a little bit better. So we're gonna test it out, try it, see how it works, and if it works well, I'll let you guys know. I've heard good things about it. Let's go get the box of fun stuff back over here and take a look at the rest of the parts. So I've already got one of these. This is for checking deck height. You know, almost every VW, store, online website sells these deck height tools. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to have two of them so I can do, one side of the engine at a time. I also picked up some new gaskets, some new copper gaskets, and these are like a crush type gasket. And somebody said that these are 1.5" gaskets right here, 1.5" gaskets. But they weren't sure if they would fit correctly on the CB header. So I thought we'd pull up the CB header and take a look and see how these actually match up when it comes to the hole on there. You know, right now, and kind of unedited. Got some gaskets that came with a new push rod tube. So I picked up one of these fuel sender gaskets because I'm going to be replacing my fuel sender at some point. And if you order stuff through CB Performance, there's always a shipping fee. So I went ahead and just kind of threw some extra stuff in here. There's a new Sachs throwout bearing. I already told you guys we're going to be replacing the throwout bearing that I have right now. So went ahead and picked up a new throwout bearing. Rear main seal, because you can never have enough of those. And the new clutch disc. This is a non-spring type clutch disc. And whenever you're doing more higher horsepower applications, it's not a bad idea to get a clutch disc that doesn't utilize the springs, because those springs can go bad. So this is what we would consider a solid clutch disc. Yeah, able to withstand all kinds of goodness, putting it to the pedal with my stage 2 Kennedy clutch that I have in the back of the engine. Yeah, good stuff, guys. Let's put it all up, and then what should I show you first? Let's go ahead and look at that CB header and see how these gaskets line up, because I had some folks asking about that, and I'm kind of curious as well. All right, so here we go with the turbo header, guys. So if you run a turbo, you're probably running copper gaskets too, and whenever you use these things, I really don't recommend that you reuse them, because they're copper. When you crush these coppers down, they're toast bagoats. That means you're not gonna be able to use them anymore. So I don't remember what size these ones were, but I'll measure them in a second. I think they were 1.5 inches too. And when I line them up, that's funny, because like on this side I got plenty of room because the welds inside of the, let me bring it in. Gonna have to move to the right a little bit, Jay. Alrighty. So you can't barely see this because it's just like sooty from the exhaust. Let's see if that helps any. You see the weld inside there? Well, that weld inside of there protrudes further in, so like, yeah, you get one that matches up to this outer. It's pretty much pointless because this weld inside of here goes deep inside of the pipe, and you're like, well, I thought that pipe was 1 5/8 inch, or, you know, 1 3/8 inch, or where the hell it is. I don't know, I have to measure it. But the CB Performance header is one size, and then you get these gaskets, and you're like, well, does it really make any sense to get the one that matches the size of the pipe? Probably not, because it doesn't matter. Because you got that weld on the inside, unless you plan on grinding that weld out, which no one's probably going to do. So you just get the gasket that fits the size that you need there. And I got the 1.5 inches because it works. It works, and it doesn't obstruct anything because the weld. You look at there? Yeah, you're like, oh, that goes in a little bit. That's the wrong size. Well, yeah, it's the wrong size if I were to be going off the actual flange size here. But if you go off the weld, I'm not getting the wrong size. So I picked up these different ones. These different gaskets. I'll show you. These ones from CB Performance was like a crush gasket. You have to torque it down to a certain amount. Graphite compression gaskets. Torque it down to like, it's not very much. It's not very much at all. What does this say? Torque down to 10 to 12 foot-pounds, which you and I know, that is not very much. So if you wanted to clean this gasket up and kind of open that up a little bit, you could do that. That's not that hard to do. But if you look at it, I'll bring you guys down. Let me square you up with it. Let me square you up. Give me 1 second. That's pretty squared up. Let's zoom in. Zoom in way in. Now I gotta adjust again. There you go. Now you're all squared up. And take the gasket up here, and you can see it's about matched up with the weld. And this is the 1.5 inch one, so I don't think we're gonna be jacking with any kind of flow if I use these gaskets. And I'm using it because you can see I have some blowout on the sides here with the copper gaskets. And that's just because, dude, we're running a turbo craziness. Got some turbo craziness going on here with all kinds of pressure. And yeah, shit happens. I also picked up these copper crush gaskets. This little piece right here, this ridge on the copper gasket, well, it crushes against the head. And that's, I guess, another part that we want to look at on the heads is how these line up. But yeah, they are a little bit small, and you would probably want to go a little bit larger if you're concerned about that. But like I told you, you look at the weld bead on this header, and it protrudes well into the pipe itself, the exhaust. So I don't think we're causing any problems. Let me bring you over to the other ports and kind of look at that. Well, let's bring up the J tube first. So here's the J tube, and you see we have the same issue with the welding that goes inside the pipe there. So do you honestly have the larger size, or are you cool with the 1.5 inch? These ones are welded on. Let me show you. Will that stay there? Probably not for long. That is definitely, I don't know if I can get that out there. There we go. Get an idea. Take the copper gasket. And that's pretty much on point, the copper 1.5 inch gasket. And then we got the graphite compression, which is right there too, 1.5 inch. Cool. Moving on, guys, moving on. So back with the reassembly of the Bergman alternator slash intake fan. So we got a few different things here. We got some spacers, some shims, and a spacer right here to offset the fan off the alternator. And then you've got the nut and lock washer that actually holds it to the alternator shaft itself. I had a little bit of tweaking sound going on here too, like a bearing was going out, so I don't hear that anymore. That's good news. And also, like I told you guys, the regulator inside here had to be replaced for the alternator. So what I have to do first is I have to pull the alternator back out and install the plug right here. There's a plug that goes in there, and you can't get that sucker in there unless you've got the alternator out. So a couple Allen key screws here to remove this, and then we'll be in business. So let's go ahead and get that removed real quick like. I like to impact things out. I'm not a huge fan of impacting things in. And that is because, I'm sure you guys already know, impacting things in can lead to cross-threading, unless you start it. So you start it a little bit, and then you go gonzo with the impact, if that's your desire. Well, that sucker just is coming off there easy peasy, man. Ooh, like it was taken apart or something. Hey, that was easier than I thought it was going to be. No problem. So the reason why you can't just go out and buy like any old alternator off the shelf or one similar to this is because they clearance this bad boy to fit correctly inside of that Bergman housing. So let's go ahead and stick her on there. Just plug back on here. So you got the power, and then you got just a field wire that comes out of this. The field just, tells the regulator when to energize. I need power. Alternator, give me some power. And that's basically it. There's not a whole lot else to it. Let's go ahead and see if we can get her back in here now. What are you catching on, man? Little persuasion. Start them up. Nice. Well, like I told you, so start them first and then impact. But I'm gonna kind of just go a little bit on each one. Keep pressure even. Cool beans, baby. Nice. I'm gonna check everything out, make sure we look good. Everything looks wonderful. So for the spacers and shims that we have here, these are all underneath. There's a little key that goes in here, right there, like a little Woodruff key. Most of these shafts have that little key. See that little key that goes right there? You guys know which one I'm talking about. You've seen these before. The shims are just to help it clear the housing of the alternator. And from the looks of things, I just think it was the shims. Do not believe it was this spacer as well. It's got an indent on it as well. See a little indent on there? Yes. Yes, I believe it was there. I'm gonna keep it to the outside with all those shims. I need my little tiny hammer now. Little rapidy-tappity. Nope, never mind. I got it. Remember guys, when you're putting these keys on, you want there to be a slight angle. A slight downward angle to the front. Is it gonna zoom you in on that or not? You see right here, like the front needs to be down because it helps with the fan blade going on here. A little bit down. Zoom me back out. See how everything goes on here. If it's gonna be a total pain in the buckus. Get it all lined up. That looks pretty good. Ooh, baby. Oh, and it sounds so sweet. You want to make sure it's all the way down. And it does take a couple whacks, for sure. Last one. Oh, yeah. There we go. Sounds good. I mean, like, I don't hear anything, so that's the good sound we want. Let me turn the fan off. The other fan. I hear the car running, too. Bring it in close. Ah, this is nice and quiet. And before it was chirping like a... I don't know, like a bird. Sounds good now. And then we just have the lock washer. I'm gonna put a little bit of Loctite on there. A little bit of blue Loctite. The Permatex brand. There's other ones out there. They're all basically the same. A nice little bead on there. Lock washer. That's kind of dirty. Oh well. And I will probably zip this on here with the old impact. Woo! What a ring. Oh, my ears ring. Oh yeah. Sounds so good, man. Or the no sound. Cool. Alternator is reassembled. It looks like one of those spinner wheels. You guys remember those spinner wheels? They were really cool for like, I don't know, about 5 seconds. So check it out. Ooh, spinner wheel. I'm rolling on spinner dubs. Okay, yeah, I slay me. That's it for that, guys. Yeah, I know, another short video, not a whole lot going on. We have parts that are out waiting for coating. Also, like I told you guys before, Daryl is making up some torque plates for the new pistons and cylinders. We're gonna go ahead and torque down those cylinders, re-hone them out, and see what we can do. And hopefully it works out. I'm gonna check the outer round, check out and see what kind of what we're dealing with the before torquing down and then the after torquing down. So that should be pretty interesting to see what's going on. Turbo header, just because it's sexy. Sitting on the new toolbox. I want to thank all my guys out there, all my girls out there, all my new subscribers, all my old subscribers. You guys are great. I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out. We are closing in on 9,000 subscribers, so that's pretty cool, pretty awesome. Don't forget to tune in next week where we're going to go ahead and go over this fuel pressure regulator, and hopefully we have more parts back so we can start working on reassembly of the 2287 turbo build, guys. And then, yes, we'll be getting back to the 40 horsepower build. And I'm sorry that it's taken, I don't know, what, close to 2 years to build that thing. That's it for this weekend. That's it for today. And it's probably Monday, guys. So have a great work week, and I'll see you guys soon in the next video. Talk to you then. This is Jason with JWClassicVW, and I'm out. Goose say goodbye to. Good night, Goose. Good night, Goose. Good night. Say goodnight to your cars, guys. Say goodnight to them because they love it when you love them. See you next time. Bye-bye.